good afternoon, and thanks, Megan. And thanks the Homeland Security Defense Forum for hosting this. I think it's a great environment, great place here to bring together some of our top Homeland Security executives. Ed, thank you for being here. I know the busy schedule you have. I know you were in Austin, Texas yesterday. You flew in late last night, early this morning, and you're here doing other things. So really thank you for taking time out of your schedule. We have about 30 minutes, and I'm just going to dive right on in, Ed. And we really want to try to bring up to date the folks on a lot of the transformation that we're seeing. I'm going to just go right into it. As you balance innovation and operations, how is security being addressed so that the innovation still happens in a secure environment?
So first of all, that's a marvelous question. But one of the things I want to do is make sure that, I thank everybody for allowing me to be here today. It's all about the mission for us at CBP, and from the top at CBP headquarters, enterprise services, all the way down to OIT, and we've got such a great team. And when I look at whether it's our CISO, Scott Davis, our CTO, Neil Moderator, who's here in the audience, Dak Alessandro running software, I'm saying this because the team is so important to do those things that you asked about. Security is job one, right? Mm-hmm. So as we're providing capability out to the enterprise, whether that's officers or agents in the field, the first thought that we have is how do we secure the data, and how do we push it out to them so they can use it, be efficient and effective, and making sure that we were also protecting those jewels of the American people. Because there's a lot of adversaries out there that would love to have that information.
Yeah. We hear a lot about edge computing. Mm-hmm. How is edge computing along with artificial intelligence being used for non-intrusive inspections? An example, meta-human capabilities currently being used at CBP to revolutionize border security operations.
Well, that's a really big question in terms of scope. Yeah. One of the things I like to say is that, I think CBP is ahead of a lot of other organizations. When you look at what we're doing with AI and edge computing, people say, Ed, what's edge computing? When did it start? I always say, is anyone old enough to remember Sputnik? Well, if you are, I think that was edge computing way back, right? If you look at what we're doing now, it is pushing the data center forward. It's also putting things out there for data fusion, like sensors, C2 centers for if you're in the U.S. Border Patrol. And how do we do that work, right? Far edge, near edge. And it's really a lot of thought engineering, right? You got to think about what you want to do. So we work very closely with our trusted partners, first of all, and helping to understand, what they need, where they need it, so that we can deliver it effectively and efficiently, and you always got to think about cost, right? So there's all these trade-offs. But we do this with a teaming approach, right? Our CTO is involved, our CISO is involved, our data center people are involved. We've got several projects that are underway right now to include something that we call Douglas Analytics, which has actually been a great learning experience for us. But there's also been a lot of work that we've leveraged. I don't want people to think that this is brand new, right? We've learned a lot from the great work, the foundational work done by Border Patrol. Right? Great work, and allowed us, to figure out how to move forward. So when you start to look at what we can do with this newer capability, especially Gen AI, and you look at things like anomaly detection, these are newer capabilities that we can now push down to different levels, right? If you roll back the clock about 2 years, very few people were talking about AI and Gen AI. If you look at probabilistic sort of modeling and that sort of AI, we were doing it a long time ago, 2013-ish here at CBP. But Gen AI, the changes there are relatively new, and there's a lot happening. And I will tell you, from a security perspective, I think we are doing the right things. And I say that because if you look out at how you put a package together, right? With respect to how you secure the data, putting the governance around that. CBP is doing a lot of thought leadership, and I think we're doing that in a lot of places. I was out yesterday in Austin, and someone was talking about Cloud Smart, one of the other efforts that we're working. And I started laughing, and they probably thought he's a silly guy. But I'm thinking those are the words that we wrote in 2017 that somebody else adopted right here at CBP. So pretty excited about the changes that we drive and the value that we're adding. I think if you talk to our customer base, our trusted partner base now, they will say that we are joined at the hip, right? We are tightly coupled. When I got here in 2016, I couldn't tell you who my trusted partner was, right? I was like locked into a data center. I didn't know anything outside of, what was happening, but that's not the case today. So I look at our leadership, especially the things that were done previously, but currently under our AC Sanjeev Bagwalia, our CIO, and he forces a teaming effort, right? We fight hard at night, meaning we are on whiteboards and arguing about this or that, but we are driving technology forward, and we're driving technology because of mission, right? There's a need out there to ensure that officer and agent that's literally, as a Marine, I'd say at the tip of the spear, right? Being alone and unafraid, if you will, and needing access to IT services, whether that's data, whether that's voice, whatever it happens to be, or location information. So I think we're doing a really good job of that, and AI is becoming a bigger part, and it's going to do even better things than we're doing now. The question with respect to the meta-human, I think our CTO who's sitting there, Sunil, and I talk about this a lot because I think, one of the things in terms of a meta-human, which is an avatar with an underpinning sort of AI capability, that's the future, right? That translation capability, the ability to do sort of searches and interaction with something that kind of looks like a human being, right? I think as human beings, and here's a couple of just easy use cases. If you were coming into an airport, and if there were some OFO people here in the room, if you're coming into an airport and all of a sudden you've got someone coming in from, let's say, Chad. I think Chad's in Africa. I don't know what language is spoken there, but I think the probability or the likelihood of you having someone that speaks the language from Chad at the airport is going to be pretty small, right? And so now you've got, an officer who's now spending a lot of time trying to figure out what's happening with this person. Then you're going to have a reach back capability, probably on a contract to get, someone that speaks the language. And so that language would probably be an unusual case. So now that takes longer. But when you're looking at something like an advanced capability like a meta-human that can speak 140 languages, 80 in context, all of a sudden you're now reducing that time. Right? And the time is what's so critical to us. If you look at our biggest cost, whether it's in IT or other places, the time is, the human cost, right? And that, if we're not watching that carefully, that becomes, exponentially explosive in terms of cost and or effectiveness. So that's just one example, right? Where, you could have someone interacting with a person in their own language. Our officer would be seeing it in his or her language, and, then being able to, how about this? And you know how we love forms of government? Have the AI actually build that out for us in their language and have them verify. That's a simple thing if you're looking at something like trade. And there's also an analogous sort of thing if you're looking at, U.S. Border Patrol as well, meeting someone in the air environment that might need that sort of capability or language translation. But even things when you look at trade, when you start to ask questions about how do I move something into the U.S., how do I bring it? There is a lot of policy out there. And getting an understanding of it, even just a starter stock sort of thing, is incredibly hard. So having an AI, you can say, I want to move tuna from South America to here. What's the policy around it? Could you package that up and send it to me? I mean, getting capabilities that actually reduce the time for, those customers of the U.S. government, right? And make them more efficient, and also help them to ask better questions, right? Because sometimes just trying to zero in on that bullseye, the thing that you want, becomes very difficult.
Very difficult to do. That's really good, Ed. Keeping with that cloud computing platform, it's still very significant. I mean, we're hearing a lot about AI, obviously, and quantum and a lot of the other technologies. Cloud, and you guys have been one of the leaders at CBP. Can you speak to the importance of compute, storage, and bandwidth in using cloud and how it's helped transform your business?
Absolutely. So the good news is, I think from an app tier level, we're about 84% in the cloud, right? We still have about 40% of the database tier still on premise, right? We've got a multi-cloud strategy, and we're also looking at hybrid cloud as well. So we've done a lot of work, and we started 2017, 2016 on this journey. And I think we're one of the leaders in terms of the U.S. government. We took an approach of, and it's one of those cool Latin phrases, festina lente, right? Meaning go slow to go fast. So we learned a lot along the way, building out our capability. And we've been really successful. And we've been successful because, honestly, CBP has just a lot of really good people, and we work through problems, right? And I think that is that sort of innovation and that drive to make sure that we meet mission and carries us forward. But when you start to look at that, almost all of that, 80+% of our apps now are running. And you look at our downtime now. When I came on board, 2016, our mean time to recover, I see some people laughing who were there. That's right. Our mean time to recover from an app being down was 16 hours. Now, that probably seems outrageous to anybody in the room. Can you imagine like the automated commercial environment being down, that's ACE, being down for 16 hours at $11.5 to $150 million an hour based on how long the thing's down? Absolutely not acceptable. Right? Now that we've been in the cloud, our MTTR has gone way down, our availability is sky high, and now there are trade-offs, right? You've got to figure out what you want to do, what applications are most important, and so I think that's really critical in terms of partnering, because you got to be able to watch costs. Do I think there's a lot more that we've got to do in terms of enabling cloud capability? Absolutely. We've had budget requests in for years, and I'm pretty excited because we got some great congressional marks this year. First time ever. I'm like, man, this is exciting. But we're going to continue to drive automation. We're going to continue to drive capability. We partner really closely with Border Patrol and OFO and AMO, and this relationship has never been better. What does that turn into? That becomes requirements that are actionable. You always talk about actionable intelligence. Actionable requirements. Those are the things that we can actually do for people in the now. Meaning we can change their lives, we can change, their ability to get work done, whatever that mission or that work happens to be. Versus, I'm a former acquisition professional, right? The old, former DODer, but it's that 5-year sort of plan where something happens maybe over a long period. We don't work in that kind of organization, right? We have changes that are dynamic, and they're happening now, right? So our sort of effort with respect to the cloud is based on that, right? And I think if you look from operations such, even going back to Allies Welcome, right, to now, looking at U4 Ukraine and others, we've been dynamic, right? If you look at all the things, I'll tell you, inside of our CTO shop, and our CTO works really closely with me, we turn things around really fast, right? And the only constraint normally for us is really funding, right? Mm-hmm. We are a really good organization in terms of CBP and OIT. So, and I think everybody is mission focused. And if you look at what we're doing with Common Operational Picture, operational technology, we are hand in hand with AMO. We're hand in hand with U.S. Border Patrol. I think XD Singleton has me on speed dial. both good and bad, like either it's working or this really needs to be fixed now, right? And we do that, right? And beyond that, we're now being able to push those cloud capabilities out in terms of towers, in terms of getting the AI out into the field. Now, one of the challenges that we're definitely going to have, right? Because you asked about bandwidth and you asked about storage. The more capability that we get, right, the greater that demand signal is going to change our architecture, and that's going to drive cost. Everyone now is using ChatGPT or some other AI, right? And when that volume of people grows, and it will, right, and that demand for that capability inside of governmental organization grows, and it will, right? What's going to happen is going to be a huge demand for bandwidth, right? There's going to be a huge demand for compute, and definitely storage. When I look at some of our storage requirements, when you look at records management now, some of our records have to be out there for a lot of years, like 70. So that's humongous, right? So I think we're going to have to do this smartly, and I think we spend a lot of time with that. But it is really a team effort looking at what does that policy look like? What are we really going to focus on? Are there any constraints beyond budget? So I think that governance piece is really going to drive a lot of what we're doing as well, along with mission.
Absolutely. Well, Ed, I'm going to date myself a little. I was a first responder during the 3 Mile Island incident up in Pennsylvania back in 1979, and I saw recently about Microsoft making a purchase of that facility. And I wanted to get your thoughts on the innovative approach of our cloud service providers, and not just the top 3, because I think we have to count Oracle as one of those now in the 4 main cloud service providers. So I wanted to get your thought about that. How far-fetched is that? These innovative ideas of our cloud service providers?
So I will stay away from the 3 Mile Island, that one, because I usually make jokes. And this is not a good place for that. But I will tell you that I think our CSPs are doing a phenomenal job. And I look across the board, and I think the capabilities are coming, incredibly fast. And you mentioned Oracle. We've got. If you name the cloud, we probably got a little bit of it, right? So the big 4, I think we've got all of them. But I think there is, I was in a meeting a couple of days back, and people were talking about there's a big shift going back to data centers, right? Well, I would say that, look, there's some capability there's a hybrid sort of model, right? That should be a part of what you're doing. But we've done really well in terms of having a capability in the cloud that's able to respond to our instantaneous demand signal.
What advice would you give the audience in helping CBP and DHS as a whole as they are dealing now with a continuing resolution for budget monies, presidential transition, and the maturity of technologies such as AI and quantum? What can industry be doing to help you and your colleagues the best way?
Well, first of all, I think the biggest thing is, one, be patient, right? Because we're in a time of change, right? 2, make sure that you come with solutions that actually support our trusted partners, our customers, right? One of the things, we can't have fits and starts, right? And it can't be, it can't be a learning experience, right? We really need real knowledgeable experts to come in and deliver capability. And I'll tell you, Mr. Modagari and I, we take a lot of meetings together, and we're both technologists, right? So we sit there and we realize who the real people are that are bringing an actual solution, and those that are just, if I start smiling like that, it means I don't believe you, right? So it's the truth, right? I'm very honest about that. But so we want you to come and bring real solutions, and because we're going to challenge you, right? Because what we deliver to our customer base, when we start to look at whether it's AMO, Border Patrol, et cetera, right? We got to deliver capability that works, and not that we've got to, fix from moment one, right? It's got to come out of the box working. And if that means we need to do upfront work with you, that's what it means. We'll do it. But it's not a time for experimentation. We're in a very tough sort of economic environment where our business cases are really important, right? And I think that's going to become even more important in the new administration, right? You've got to be able to prove what you're going to do and make sure that it makes logical sense and that it has some sort of return on investment or return on assets, right? Whether it's saving time for people or it's saving cost in some sort of perspective. So I always think about that. But bottom line for us always is mission first, right? We got to make sure that we're taking care of our trusted partners, our officers and agents, because they're putting their lives on the line. So I think those are the most important things. But our doors are open. I don't think I turned down any meetings. I stay late at night, so you might have to take a late night call. I know Sunil does as well, right? I'll be there. So if you want to chat about something, please get on the schedule.
Dr. Mays, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
For your service to our country. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.